Our next speaker is Dan Forrest. Dan Forrest is the candidate for Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina. Dan has over 23 years of experience as a business leader, architect, and entrepreneur. Dan serves on the board of the North Carolina Committee of the Heritage Foundation and is the former chairman of the board of Wake Forest Pregnancy Support Services. He lives in Raleigh with his wife Alice and 4 children ages 6 to 18. Please welcome Dan Forrest.
We'll deal with the microphone here for a second. Bear with me. Well, thank y'all for being here today. We look around in numbers, and as has already been said several times today, we do have strength in numbers. We may not have thousands or millions of people here, but we have strength in numbers, as it only took 12 men for Jesus to change the world. And so here we are today, ready to change the world, starting right here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Why are we here today? We're here today because over 200 years ago, a group of men and women, a group of founding fathers and founding mothers of our nation had an idea about freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and the freedom to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. These freedoms are derived from our Creator God. What that means is they can't be derived from government, they can't be given to us by government, and what's more importantly is they can't be taken away from us by government. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you 2 days before July 4th, 2 days before Independence Day, 2 days before that great celebration, that this is our generation 1776. Yes. That freedom is not free. How many veterans do we have in the audience with us today? Thank you, veterans. Please give a hand of applause to those veterans. Freedom is not free. We're fighting for the very freedoms that so many men and women have fought and died for over the history of our great nation. And America is at a tipping point. On November 6th, we make a great decision for America. We decide whether we save the great American experiment. We decide whether we save the idea of freedom in America. Or we decide whether we tip over into socialism or worse. I hope you will join me in being freedom fighters for America on November 6th. We have 2 great problems in America as I see it. The vast majority of Americans know nothing about our first principles that make America great. In fact, in a 2010 Nation's Report Card on U.S. history, only 12% of high school seniors were proficient in history. Only 12%. The second great problem is the vast majority of Americans know nothing about the Bible. According to a recent Gallup poll, fewer than half of Americans can identify the first book of the Bible. Just 1/3 of Americans know who delivered the Sermon on the Mount, and many of them think it was Billy Graham. So we have a great challenge in our country. I believe we're here today. I believe this is our 1776 because we have a great leadership crisis in America. We have a great leadership crisis in North Carolina, and we need bold, courageous, visionary leaders to step up at all levels of government and step in and fix this problem. As Abraham Lincoln said in a proclamation in 1863, this was a proclamation for Thanksgiving and for fasting and for national humiliation. A brief snippet of that is, we have been preserved these many years in peace and prosperity. We have grown in numbers, wealth, and power, as no other nation has ever grown. But we have forgotten God. My friends, it's time to put God back at the center of all things. It's time to stand for our religious freedoms. And it's also time to know that without God at the center, we will not solve the problems that face America today. We will continue to put policy band-aids on top of the symptoms that are caused by those problems every day. We must return to truth and morality, character, integrity, values, principles, liberty, personal responsibility. Whatever happened to personal responsibility in America? And in case anybody ever wants to tell you that religion or Christianity doesn't solve any problems in our nation or in our world, they may come up with arguments like this: you can't legislate morality. It's wrong to force your morals on others. The church should stick to preaching the gospel. Well, let me tell you a little bit of truth about that. Christian political action has righted many wrongs throughout the history of this world. It's because of people like you that we've gotten rid of infanticide on many levels around the world. We're still fighting it right here. The abortion fight is still real. We've gotten rid of child marriage and forced prostitution, women as second-class citizens, the abandonment of the elderly in the wilderness, revenge killings, honor killings, the abuse of children, slavery, civil rights, the sale of children, and the list goes on and on and on. If people tell you that Christians do no good in our culture and should stay out of politics, tell that to William Wilberforce, who single-handedly fought the battle to abolish slavery in England for 40 years and ultimately gave his life for that battle. Tell that to Martin Luther King, who fought for the civil rights and gave his life in America for civil rights as well. This is not a truth. And let's talk just briefly about the truth of separation of church and state. We all know this doctrine of separation of church and state, but where did it come from? In 1800, Thomas Jefferson was elected as the first anti-federalist president. He found friends in the Danbury Baptists in Connecticut who felt that they were being persecuted by their state and that their state was setting up a state government and blocking them out. So they wrote a letter to Thomas Jefferson basically saying, do you still stand for freedom of religion, as it's mentioned in our Constitution and our Bill of Rights? And Thomas Jefferson, in a personal letter on personal stationery, wrote back to the Danbury Baptists before he was even sworn in as president and said, yes. In fact, these are his words. I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people, which declared that their legislature should make no law, the legislature being Congress, should make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Thus, he said, building a wall of separation between church and state. That letter was taken as a personal letter between two individuals for 147 years. In 1947, then our Supreme Court, in their infinite wisdom in Everson versus the Board of Education, made this statement. The First Amendment has erected a wall between church and state. That wall must be kept high and impregnable. We could not approve the slightest breach. For 147 years, our Bill of Rights remained intact until one single activist judge decided that we could no longer pray in schools, that we could no longer put the 10 Commandments on the walls in our courtrooms. One single individual. How long, my friends, are we going to stand up and allow one individual to define our religious freedom for us? And so we have a duty. We have a role as Christians. We have the same civic duty as non-Christians. We have the same civic duty to go out and exercise our right to vote, one of our most basic rights as Americans. We also must be the standard bearers for righteousness and justice in our culture. If we are not going to do it, then who is? And we must uphold our moral values. If anybody ever tells you that you can't legislate morality, tell them they are wrong. All legislation is moral. Every piece of legislation that passes through this House and Senate is moral. The question is, whose morality is it? Whose morality is it? So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our time. This battle is ours to win. Make a commitment now to stand up for what is right and what is just and what is true. And say, not on my watch will I let my country fall. God bless you all, and God bless America.